Hybrid training is one of the most potent tools that you can use to develop your mindset. However, paradoxically, you need to understand how to develop that mindset to be successful with hybrid training. By the end of this video, you're going to understand some of the key concepts that hold people back from building a leaner, stronger, and more endurable body and unshakable self-confidence. If you're watching this video, there's probably a good chance that you're in your 20s to 30s and you're already doing or you're starting to become more interested in hybrid training so you can improve yourself mentally and physically. Physically, you want to work on your body composition, you want to be stronger, you want to build endurance. Maybe you've got specific events that you're working towards. From a mental capacity, you probably want to be more self-confident, you want to be mentally tougher, have more resilience, because relatively speaking, this increases your quality of life. However, when it actually comes to achieving some of those goals, you've probably got some challenges within your own mindset that stand in the way. Maybe you've got an all or nothing mentality. Maybe you have body image issues and unrealistic expectations. Maybe you've got an unhealthy relationship with food. Maybe you're constantly comparing yourself to others and seeking external validation. You may struggle to manage your emotions and stress. And maybe a lack of self-compassion and a fixed mindset is limiting you from growing. If that's the case, keep watching this video because we're going to discuss these problems and some solutions that you can use to build a better mindset so you can build a leaner, stronger, and more endurable body, more self-confidence, mental toughness, and resilience through hybrid training. So let's discuss this all or nothing mentality. We can call it black or white thinking, we can call it perfectionism. You either look at something as right or wrong. If you're going for a run, it's either balls to the wall or nothing at all. If you're going for a strength training session, it's either a PB or nothing at all. Or if there's anything in between, you beat yourself up about that result. When it comes to the perfectionism side of things, this actually gets in the way of you getting a lot of your training done and your unrealistic expectations of what you're actually able to achieve or what exercises you're actually able to perform and how much time you spend planning, preparing for it, gets in the way of actually just getting the simple things done consistently over time that lead you to a result. You can still be all in and have a balanced approach to training. You've just got to consider that everything's not always going to be perfect. You're not going to have the perfect conditions for a run, for a strength training session. Maybe you've got external stresses from your career or your personal life affecting your training, or for whatever reason, you're just not performing as well as you want to be. The main challenges that I've faced myself and that a lot of my clients have faced when it comes to this all or nothing mentality usually stems from this expectation that they're always going to train in perfect conditions, they're always going to be seeing results, and they just always want to see progress across the board. And then we get angry when we don't see this perfect result, and we're thinking in this black and white mindset. So if it's not perfect, if it doesn't meet our expectations, then it's completely wrong and we should just derail ourselves or at least beat ourselves up. Now, a lot of the time, this is the mindset that leads to a lot of overtraining, that leads to high levels of fatigue, injury, reductions in performance. And instead, what we want to look at doing here is having more of a balanced approach to training. We need to be more guided and take ourselves out of the driver's seat sometimes, look at the bigger picture, look at what we want to achieve in the long run, and understand that our training, nutrition, recovery, our lifestyle, it's not always going to be in this perfect reality that we've made up in our head. So we talked a little bit about unrealistic expectations, but we didn't attach that to body image. Admittedly, the main reason that I first got into training was because I had low self-confidence with the way I looked. I had poor mental health, I had depression, anxiety, I was doing drugs, drinking on the weekends, and training really changed my life around. It really improved my mental health, the way I looked, the way I felt, obviously the way my body performed as well. However, over the past 10 plus years, I've always had challenges with body image. I was always concerned with the way I looked. Did I look muscly enough? Was I lean enough? It was a main motivator for me for years with my training, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it still is. However, something that I helped to shift this focus from purely aesthetics is to have this performance-focused approach to body transformation. If you want to build that leaner, stronger, more endurable body, you're not just focused on how your veins look when you're doing curls in the mirror. You're not just focused on how your abs look when you get out of the shower. You're focused on the weights that you're lifting in the gym. You're focused on the distance or speed of your runs. You focus on your mobility and freedom of movement, as well as other physical components that you can actually work on enhancing over time. My number one recommendation to stop fixating on your own body image is to start focusing on your physical performance, primarily strength and endurance. On a final note, when it comes to body image, When it comes to hybrid training, you're not purely doing bodybuilding training, so do not expect to look like a world-class bodybuilder. If you're someone that's going to be strength training 3 to 4 times a week, maybe you're running 2 to 3, maybe 4 times a week as well, you are not going to get as jacked as some of these people, nor are you going to be as strong as some of the powerlifters out there as well. Don't get me wrong, you can build a killer physique with hybrid training, but you'll need to shift that expectation of the body image that is produced from this approach to training. All right, so jumping off the back end of body image issues, something that follows this is your relationship with food. You will have existing values and beliefs of the standard of body image that you wish to achieve, and this is going to guide your decision-making process when it comes to eating food. Obviously, this has been developed over time based off what your parents taught you, your friends, everyone in your life growing up. Not only that, but media, so the TV that you used to watch growing up, maybe it was a magazine that you read, and obviously now we have social media as well. For some of the lucky people, they have a really healthy, flexible relationship with food. They're not restricting food groups, they're not demonizing foods, and they're not guilting themselves for eating certain foods at times. However, if you're someone like me who has struggled with under and overeating in the past, your relationship with food is not only going to influence your body composition, but it is going to significantly affect your ability to perform. It's going to impact your mental, physical health, and your overall quality of life as well. So this is something that you want to dial in. If you feel like your relationship with food, or your relationship with your body image for that matter, is something that you really need to work on, I would highly suggest seeking professional help, as this is going to fast track you to finding a way out of that. However, what I want to discuss now is turning a negative relationship with food into a more positive one that promotes better performance, body composition, whilst also supporting your mental and physical health and quality of life. With respects to the aforementioned approach when it comes to performance for body transformation from the training side of things, I have the same approach when it comes to performance-focused nutrition. The way I like to label it is fueling yourself, not fooling yourself. You can still lose body fat whilst being in a calorie deficit and focus on fueling yourself adequately. However, when your idea is just to take all the foods away, to restrict carbohydrates, to not look after your protein intake and your hydration, you will run yourself into the ground, put yourself at high risk of injury, higher levels of fatigue, and one of these things is probably going to derail you from your progress in future. So when it comes to shifting to a performance-focused nutrition mindset, you need to respect the fact that you have individual nutrition needs that need to be met. Regardless of if you're in a calorie deficit, at maintenance, or in a surplus, you're doing your best to fuel your body with your nutrition as optimally as possible for whatever situation that you're in. The next thing I want to talk about is self-comparison and external validation. Self-comparison, as we know it, is the thief of joy. You see that super jacked bloke or really fit bird on your Instagram and you think, fuck, why don't I look like that? If you're like me, you probably idolized movie stars as a kid. I remember seeing the likes of Brad Pitt, Daniel Craig, that guy who played Ryan McCarthy in Never Back Down, and these dudes were absolutely shredded, and that really inspired me to build a body that looked that way. However, when I got into the fitness scene and I saw these massive bodybuilders, I started comparing myself to them, and honestly, so much of my cognitive effort and time in my day was spent thinking about these things. It didn't only take away from my own mental health, but my quality of life. Outside of that, it's increasing my own stress, which impacts my own recovery, which therefore impacts my training. So when it comes to self-comparison, you need to understand that the person you're comparing yourself to has different genetic traits than you. They probably train, eat, recover, and live their life a little differently or very differently to you. So when it comes to comparing yourself to movie stars or social media influencers or coaches out there who have crazy good bodies and are super fit, what you don't understand is that these people's lifestyle is built towards them achieving that body and being able to perform the way that they do. Above all else, they prioritize their training, their nutrition, their recovery, and everything they do to achieve that outcome. If those things fall on your priority list down here, you are not going to achieve that. Nor do I want you to think that you have to. You need to shift from comparing yourself to other people to comparing yourself to the person that you were yesterday, last week, or last year. Focus on self mastery, not trying to beat the competition, because this is still going to get you awesome results and it's not going to sacrifice your mental health. To touch on that point of external validation, when you are focused on self-mastery, when you are focused on achieving that 1% better every day, improving you, and you give yourselves the pat on the back for that, whilst it still might be nice to get some compliments from other people, you're not going to be as likely to seek that external validation. And whilst external validation isn't inherently a bad thing, if that's been your only driver, that's going to limit your progress in the long run, and it's definitely going to guide some of the decision making and actions that you take with your own training, nutrition, and lifestyle, which aren't exactly always going to work in your favor. The next thing that I want to discuss, and probably one of the most important elements of this video, relates to all of the factors that we've talked about so far. When it comes to an all or nothing mentality, body image issues and unrealistic expectations, your relationship with food, self-comparison and seeking external validation, stress management, and emotional regulation, this starts to limit our approach to training. It affects the decisions we make with our food. It impacts our recovery. It impacts the amount of sleep that we're getting, the amount of high quality sleep that we're getting. And when you don't deal with your shit, so to speak, it's going to show up somewhere in your life. Now, a lot of people talk about training as being a stress management tool. Training is a stressor. If you look at how your nervous system is operating when you're lifting a heavy weight or hauling ass on a run, it is operating in a very similar way to when you're having difficulties with your work, your study, your relationship, maybe you're having some issues with your friends or your family. You're in a sympathetic fight or flight state. And to better manage your stress, you need to be able to switch that off and switch on that parasympathetic nervous system. And one of the best ways that you can do this is by controlling your breathing. Being able to maintain controlled breathing and regulate your nervous tone is going to help you to be less reactive. And when you do this on a day-to-day basis, you'll be able to reduce your stress, aka cortisol, which not only makes you a better person to be around and of more value to other people, but you're actually going to be able to recover from your training better, make better decisions when it comes to your food, and sleep a hell of a lot better. When it comes to the emotional side of things, I am no guru in this area, but again, emotions are going to guide actions. If you train when you're angry, if you eat when you're sad, or if you stay up all night, doom scrolling on TikTok or watching Netflix because something's got you feeling a little depressed or maybe anxious, these are not things that are going to be supportive of your approach to hybrid training, let alone your own quality of life. So rather than suggest a mindset to have to be able to manage your stress and regulate your emotions, I would recommend practicing some form of breath work where you start to regulate your nervous system and being able to switch on that parasympathetic or rest or digest system. I would also recommend doing some journaling where you can start to put your thoughts and feelings onto paper. You can obviously talk about your goals, things you're grateful for as well. Journaling is a super powerful tool, and you're going to see a lot of elite athletes using both of these tools. Finally, just take some time to be mindful in your day. If you're on a run, look up. If you're running through a park, look at the trees, look at the creek or the river that you're running by. When you're sitting down getting a coffee, put your phone down and just take in everything that's going on around you. Be more mindful, be more present, and you'll start to see the impact that these three things have on you as a person. And when you are more calm and collected, not always stressing out, not always reacting from emotion, and you're going to be able to guide your decisions and the subsequent actions a lot better. Now, my final point that I want to discuss in this video is that of self-compassion and having a growth mindset. So when we talk about self-compassion, we talk about acting in a way that appreciates or cares for ourselves. We're not punishing ourselves, we're not beating ourselves up or making ourselves feel guilty. However, this doesn't mean that we take it to the other end of the spectrum either, where every day is a self-care day. We take actions that align with our values, beliefs, and the standards that we set for ourselves. However, when life doesn't go to plan, when you're run down, when you're injured, that's where you take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and think, what is best for me right now? If I can't step forward today, what's gonna help me to keep walking forward in the weeks, months, and years to come? Maybe it's reducing the training volume, maybe it's taking a rest day, maybe it's managing your nutrition better, maybe it's getting more sleep. Whatever it is, you're showing more self-compassion towards yourself, which produces better long-term outcomes. On the same note, when it comes to this growth mindset, we're always keeping an open mind. We're always keeping a flexible approach when it comes to our training and our nutrition, and we are always taking a holistic approach and seeing how every aspect of our life influences one another. How does your training affect your nutrition and vice versa? How do both affect your career? How does your career affect your relationships? How do your relationships affect your training and your nutrition? When it comes to this growth mindset, you stay open to learning from all of this. This is the opposite of a fixed mindset, where you're not open to growth, you're not open to lessons, you only see things as failures. It's similar to that all or nothing mentality, whether it's either right or wrong, and there's no wiggle room. With the growth mindset, you're continuously looking to learn, you're always looking to improve, and you're not necessarily seeing one single outcome as your endpoint. You're in the continuous pursuit of self-mastery. Someone who doesn't have a growth mindset is just going to limit their progress in the long term. And if they're in denial, they're just going to blame everything and everyone around them for the results that they're not seeing and the way that their life is. And I don't think you or I want to be that person. So to wrap this video up today, we touched on breaking free of that all or nothing mentality and having a more balanced and open-ended approach to your hybrid training, overcoming body image issues and your relationship with food by having more of a performance-focused approach to both training and nutrition. We talked about self-comparison and external validation and how we should be focused on self-mastery and patting ourselves on the back and not necessarily relying on the compliments or thoughts of others. We also talked about your ability to manage stress and regulate emotions and how this is going to impact the decisions that you make when it comes to your training, nutrition, recovery, and your life in general. And finally, we discussed having more self-compassion when it comes to hybrid training and also developing a growth mindset where we're focused on learning and taking everything as a lesson or an opportunity to build our ideal self. So you can look, feel, and perform the way you want to, and so you can show up in your life as the person that you want to be. I hope there's been a few little chunks of gold in this video today that you can take away to help you improve your mindset. Don't try to do everything at once. Don't have that all or nothing mentality. Be patient with yourself and remember to think of your progress in the long term. As always, I invite you guys to like, comment, subscribe if you're finding value in my content and if you want to stay in the loop for content in future. Over the past 3 videos, I've discussed some of the main factors when it comes to hybrid training. Training itself, nutrition, and mindset. So that concludes the way that I wanted to start this YouTube channel. So we're going to dive a little deeper into some of these topics in future, but you can also expect to see some more content focused on self-development. I've also got the aspiration to get some little lifestyle vlogs and a few little interesting concepts out in future. I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Thank you for watching. See you next time.